As a member of Congress, how would you deal with the often competing interests of balancing the federal budget versus responding to constituent demands for federal services?
Well, I think the priority when you're in the Senate or the House or really working for the federal government from anywhere is that you put national security interests first, you put state interests second, and then if you haven't already decided, you can look to what your party wants. Based on that, you can see that most of the time you're going to have a compromise probably at the top. On this issue in particular, this is probably an area where we can compromise. You can ask the state for support. If it's very important to the folks in the state to keep that open, then maybe the state legislature can help out with some matching funds. If you have something like a matching fund solution, you could probably keep the gate open. You want to have a lot of local response. You want to make sure that the folks who are actually dependent upon the national park for their livelihood have a say in the matter and are not disaffected by the outcomes at the federal level. But you also want to make sure that you're not raising the budget in the end. You know, if it's a waste of taxpayers' money at the federal level, then unfortunately it's probably a waste of taxpayers' money at the federal level, and you can't justify it as an individual for the state. That also gives you a lot of freedom then to point to other people around the country and say, look, you know, you've been wasting a lot of money also, and you need to take this spending down. So we can do a lot that way. And again, if it's a local solution and it's a local problem, it should probably be solved locally.
Senator?
The Yellowstone problem has been a problem since before I got to the Senate, and we have to deal with it in a very drastic way every single year. There is an attempt every year to eliminate the use by people of Yellowstone Park. Winter primarily because they're having the most success there, but I really feel that it'll carry over into summer as well. One of the things I looked at several years ago when they were talking about closing down the east entrance, and because of the costs, I audited it. And what I found was they were allocating a whole bunch of the cost to the entire park to the east entrance and making it an absurd number that it was costing to bring those people in. They also make it so that you never know whether the gate's going to be open or not. It's very hard to run a business and have large numbers, not large numbers, there'll never be large numbers, of people going into Yellowstone from the east entrance if they keep it in a state of uncertainty. I think that one of the goals of the people that work in the park in the winter is to have that to themselves as a winter wonderland. If they do that, we've got to cut back some of the pay that we do in the wintertime there. But it's a constant threat to try and close down different parts of Yellowstone, and the accounting shows that there are some significant things that are done against Wyoming that way. It's our job to correct it. My biggest job is teaching the East about the West. They don't realize that Yellowstone is about the size of Connecticut, and that we only have 3 million people go through there in an entire year, which is the number of people that live in Connecticut. And we have 1 million vehicles go through there, including snowmobiles in a year. And that's the number of vehicles that move every day in Connecticut. So if I run into somebody from Connecticut who's been to Yellowstone, I ask them how they found the traffic, and they said, well, it wasn't bad at all. I said, when were you there? They said, August. It must be a slow time. We know that's not a slow time. But the small eastern parks would have snowmobiles parked parallel and side by side over the entire park if they had 500 snowmobiles in that park. And that's why they don't understand Yellowstone, where you stay on the roads, you have miles per hour that you have to meet, you have to have a guide, you can't bother the animals.
Okay.